Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Val and this is part 2 of my video about the Ruflex watch restoration. I'm doing pre-cleaning of all pivot holes, also removing the crystal from the case and inspecting it. It has no cracks or other not recoverable damages, and I believe I can save it by cleaning and repolishing. Removing dirt from the case looks like it is a rose gold plated, and I would try to save it as well. This watch based on the vintage Swiss movement ETA 1080. At this point everything is ready for ultrasound cleaning. Starting to lubricate the mainspring using Mobius 80-100 grease. Now preparing the mainspring barrel. I wound the mainspring using universal vintage K&D winder and now inserting the spring into the barrel. Installing the arbor and applying 80-100 grease on the top of the mainspring. And closing the barrel lid. Here is the microscope view of the barrel hole on the main plate. And here is the hole for the center wheel, also on the main plate. I think somebody in the past made the size correction of the center wheel hole by moving material to the center using some stamp. Both holes look as they are not exactly rounded, and I am going to make slight corrections and burnish holes using the smoothing broach. And now I can proceed to the watch assembling. This watch uses many small jeweled plates to cover the jeweled pivot holes, and it makes the watch having 21 jewels. Most movements of this model have 17 jewels. Turning over the main plate and starting to assemble the wheel train. Lubricating holes of the center and third wheel using HP 1300 synthetic oil and 9010 oil for the escape wheel. Installing the center wheel and its dedicated bridge. Here goes another small jeweled plate. Now is the third wheel and the escape wheel. Lubricating the second wheel using 4010 oil. This is the upper wheel train bridge, and it has its own small jeweled covers. When you want to quickly recognize how many jewels the ETA 1080 movement has, look at this bridge, and if there are two cover plates, then the movement has 21 joules. If there is only one plate, then it is a 17 joules movement. Making sure all wheels are moving freely under the bridge. And fixing the bridge into the place by 2 screws. Checking again and applying the oil on the second hand jewel. Lubricating the barrel hole on the main plate and also lubricating the low part of the arbor using HP 1300 synthetic oil. Moving the barrel inside the train and lubricating the upper part of the arbor. Inserting the setting lever screw before installing the barrel bridge. It is held by 3 screws, but the only 2 screws go first and third will be inserted later when assembling click spring and click. Checking again if all train wheels spin freely. Now preparing for assembling a click spring, click and a crown wheel. First goes the click spring, then click and third screw that we mentioned about holding the barrel bridge goes now. Next is the small washer and the crown wheel. Not to forget, this screw is left threaded. And now is the ratchet wheel. Checking again for the smooth spinning of all wheels after they are fully assembled. I cleaned 2 watch parts in Hexan. These parts are the balance wheel with the hairspring and impulse jewel and the pallet fork. Both parts have a shellac that holds the impulse jewel and pallets respectively, and hexane doesn't dissolve the shellac. Here is a story about the Canon pinion not having enough friction, as I mentioned in the part 1 of this video. Here I show the small dent that provides a friction between the Canon pinion and the central wheel. I am using a smoothing broach by inserting it inside of the Canon pinion. Then I use a small cutter tool and make the dent to be slightly deeper. It is critical to use the steel cylinder inside of the Canon pinion, otherwise it could be easily smashed. This is the KT22 grease that I use for the keyless works, and I apply it to the setting wheel, winding pinion and the winding stem. Inserting the stem and applying KT22 grease on the clutch where it contacts with the yoke. The setting lever goes next. I need to turn the movement over to be able to reach the setting lever screw and fix it to the setting lever. Now goes the yoke, then the yoke spring, and the setting lever spring and cover. Intermediate wheel goes on its place, and then the minute wheel and the cover. Some people asking why this wheel is called a minute wheel. Because it is used to rotate both minute and hour hands. I guess it could be called the time adjusting wheel. But we need to stick with for whatever name is known for this wheel. Checking how the keyless works functions. Now I proceed with installing the balance wheel jewels on the dial side of the main plate. In this watch the balance assembly, balance jewel block is called the Novodiag block, and in this particular watch it uses the spring in the shape of triangle. I've searched online and did not find the same type of the spring for these movement models. All of them have a different shape for this spring. And it tells me that this watch is pretty rare and is probably one of the first produced in 1950. Turning over back to the train side and proceeding with an assembling of the pallet fork. I applied a very small amount of Mobius 941 fine oil on the exit pallet jewel, installing the pallet fork and the pallet fork bridge. Winding the mainspring and checking how the pallet fork responds to the mainspring power. Looks good. And now is the moment of excitement when installing the balance wheel assembly. And it started to work as it should. Fixing it by its single screw and installing the Novodiag block on this side. I'm using the automatic oiler to lubricate the jewels using Mobius 910 oil. Let's check on time grapher how the movement works after servicing and adjustment. It looks very good. The amplitude is much higher than before. Even the bit error has become a little bit less. Next I will work on saving the crystal, using fine sandpapers and polishing materials. Then I polished the case by using jewelry wipe, because I did not want to remove too much rose gold material. So big scratches from the long usage are still there, but there are signs of the age. Next I brushed and polished the case back, and again I did not want to take off too much because I wanted to preserve all original writings on the case back. Then I refreshed the hands using jewelry wipe again. And finally I removed the dust from the dial using Rodico. There are non-recoverable spots on the dial that again witnesses of the long life of this vintage timepiece. I am removing the stem in preparation for inserting the movement into the case, lubricating the Canon pinion and installing the hour wheel. I am also putting the dial friction spring, which was missed when I did disassembling. Now proceeding with the dial installation and fixing it by two side screws. Installing hands starting from the hour hand, then minute and second hands. Then I pressed in the refreshed and clean crystal into the case and inserted the movement. Returning the stem with the crown, inserting the shock protection ring, and closing the case. This watch came to me without band, so I found a leather band with the appropriate lock size, and I am inserting the spring bars into the locks. And the watch is ready for use and enjoyment. It works and looks better than before, and it received the long-awaited and well-deserved service and restoration. Thanks for watching. As always, I ask to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, goodbye.